You finally did it. You set boundaries. You stopped chasing. You gave him the space he seemed to want. And suddenly, everything changed. The man who barely texted back is now flooding your phone. The indifference that used to wound you has transformed into something that looks almost like obsession. He's pursuing you with an intensity you've never seen before. And you're sitting there thinking, is this what I wanted? Did I just become one of those people playing games because it feels strange? It feels like you won something, but you're not sure you want the prize anymore. Maybe you're even feeling guilty, like you manufactured this crisis just to get attention. But what if I told you that guilt is exactly what your old pattern wants you to feel? That voice telling you you're being manipulative, that's the same voice that kept you small for years. It's the voice that learned to survive by never asking for too much, by always being available, by making sure everyone else was comfortable, even when you were falling apart. Here's what I want you to consider. What if this isn't about games at all? What if his sudden intensity is revealing something that's been hidden all along? Something that depth psychology calls the shadow. That part of us, we don't want to see the wounded places we've been running from since childhood. Your emotional distance didn't create something new in him. It exposed what was always there. I've spent years researching how our deepest wounds shape our relationships, how the parts we've disowned show up in the people we love. And what I've learned is this: when you finally stop abandoning yourself to make someone comfortable, their real self emerges. Not because you manipulated them, but because you stopped playing a role in their unconscious drama. The distance you created isn't coldness, it's clarity. And his reaction, that intensity that's making you question everything, that's his shadow speaking. The abandoned child inside him is finally being forced to surface, and it's terrifying for him. But here's where it gets complicated. You're scared too, aren't you? You're wondering if you overcorrected, if you healed your people-pleasing tendencies so thoroughly that you've become unavailable, if protecting yourself means you'll lose the chance at real love. That fear, that's your shadow too. The part of you that learned very early that love must be earned through constant availability, through making yourself small, through never asking for too much. Even after all your healing work, that frightened part still whispers that you're being selfish. What we're going to explore today goes deeper than relationship advice. We're going to look at why his chaotic response is actually the most honest moment your relationship has ever had. Because when your distance activates his shadow, the truth finally has nowhere to hide. Before we go further, if this is already touching something you've felt but couldn't name, hit that like button and subscribe. We're about to go into territory most relationship content won't touch, and you'll want to come back for more. Let me tell you about the shadow. It's not some mysterious spiritual concept. It's actually quite simple. The shadow is everything about ourselves we've learned to hide. Every emotion we were told was too much. Every need we were taught to be ashamed of. Every part of us that didn't fit into what our family, our culture, or our early relationships could handle. For most people, the shadow forms in childhood. Maybe you learned to be the good girl who never caused problems. Maybe he learned to be the strong boy who never showed fear. Those rejected parts don't disappear. They live in us, running the show from behind the curtain. In relationships, something fascinating happens. We don't just love people. We project our shadow onto them. We unconsciously seek in them what we've lost in ourselves. We try to complete ourselves through them instead of doing the hard work of becoming whole on our own. For many men, the shadow holds something specific, the terrified inner child who believes he's fundamentally not enough, that he'll be abandoned if anyone sees who he really is, that love is conditional on his performance, his success, his ability to keep someone's attention. This wounded part operates like an invisible force field around his heart. It's why he could be distant when you were close, but becomes obsessed when you pull away. It's not logical. It's not even conscious most of the time. It's a survival mechanism that formed when he was too young to understand what was happening to him. Maybe his father was emotionally unavailable, teaching him that real men don't need connection. Maybe his mother was inconsistent, present one moment and absent the next, so he learned that love is unreliable. Maybe he was bullied as a child and learned to hide his sensitivity behind walls of indifference. Whatever the original wound, it's running the show now. When you were constantly available, when you texted back immediately, when you organized your life around his needs, you were unknowingly soothing that wounded part of him. Your presence was like a blanket over his anxiety. He didn't have to face his fear of abandonment because you were always there, proving he was wanted. But then you changed. You did your healing work. You learned about your empath nature, your people-pleasing patterns, your tendency to lose yourself in relationships. You created space. You stopped responding instantly. You started living a life that didn't revolve around making him comfortable. And his shadow started screaming. Think about your relationship history for a moment. When you gave everything, what happened? He took you for granted. When you needed him most, where was he? Probably distant, maybe even gone. But now that you've stepped back, now that you've chosen yourself, he's suddenly everywhere. Texting, calling, showing up, making promises. This isn't random. This is a psychological pattern that's been studied for over a century. There are these things called complexes, emotional clusters, that form around our wounds. They operate almost independently, like having a frightened child living inside you who takes over when something triggers them. His complex is being triggered right now. Your distance is touching that abandoned inner child, and that part of him is panicking. It's not rational. It's not even really about you. It's about a wound that's probably decades old finally being exposed to air. Here's the revelation most people miss. You thought emotional distance was something you were doing to him, a strategy, a test, maybe even a punishment. But really, emotional distance is something you did for yourself. You stopped abandoning yourself to keep him comfortable. And his reaction to that, his sudden intensity, or his anger, or his confusion, that's not showing you how much he loves you. It's showing you how much he's been avoiding himself. There are really 3 ways someone can respond when your boundaries activate their shadow. The first is shadow eruption. That's when you see rage, manipulation, blame, when he makes you responsible for his feelings and uses guilt to pull you back. That's a shadow that refuses to look at itself. The second is shadow panic. That's pursuit without any real growth, promises without change, intensity without consciousness. He wants you back, but he doesn't want to face why he lost you in the first place. It's like putting a bandage on a wound without cleaning it first. The third is shadow recognition. This is rare, but it's the only one worth your energy. This is when his discomfort leads to self-reflection. When he gets curious about his own patterns, when he's willing to sit with the uncomfortable feelings instead of just trying to make them go away by getting you back. His reaction isn't showing you how much he loves you. It's showing you how much capacity he has for his own growth. And that distinction changes everything. There's something in depth psychology called the anima, the internal feminine that every man carries. It's shaped by his mother, by his early relationships, by every woman who influenced his understanding of what feminine energy means. When that internal feminine is wounded, when a man never learned to access his own emotional world, something predictable happens. He looks for a woman to be his anima, to provide his emotional stability, to soothe his fears, to complete his sense of identity. He's not looking for a partner. He's looking for a missing piece of himself. This is why your distance feels so catastrophic to him. You're not just stepping back from the relationship. You're removing yourself from a role you never agreed to play. The role of his emotional caretaker, his inner compass, his sense of safety in the world. When you stop playing that role, he has to face his own inner feminine, the emotional work he's been avoiding his entire life. And that's terrifying. Imagine a man who grew up with a mother who was physically there, but emotionally absent. Present, but not really seeing him. His shadow learned something specific. Love means proximity without true connection. Closeness without depth. So he recreates this pattern as an adult. He seeks you, but he doesn't really see you. He wants you near, but he can't handle real intimacy until you create distance. Then suddenly, for the first time in his life, he feels the ache of actual separation. Not the pseudo-separation he's been living in, where you were physically close, but emotionally carrying everything. Real separation. And it wakes something up in him. Or maybe he had a parent who loved conditionally, who only showed approval when he achieved something performed. Well, made them proud. So his shadow learned that love must be earned, that he's only valuable when he's winning. When you were chasing him trying to prove your love, you fit into that pattern perfectly. You were performing for his approval. But now that you've stopped performing, now that you're simply being, his entire framework collapses. He doesn't know how to receive love that isn't conditional on his achievement or your pursuit. The space you've created, that distance that's making both of you uncomfortable, there's actually something sacred about it. Empty spaces are where transformation happens. In that void, he has to feel his own feelings instead of borrowing yours. He has to learn to self-soothe instead of using you as emotional medication. He has to confront the question he's been running from. Why do I only value her when she's leaving? But I know what you're thinking. What if that void just stays empty? What if he doesn't choose growth? What if creating this distance means I lose him forever? That fear, that's your shadow talking. The part of you that still believes deep down that you must sacrifice yourself to be loved, that your worth is measured by how much you can endure, that asking for what you need means you're too much, too difficult, too demanding. This is the part of you that learned to survive by making yourself smaller, the abandoned child in you who learned that love is conditional on your performance, that if you stop giving, you'll be left behind. Here's what changes everything. There's this concept called individuation. It means becoming who you truly are, separate from what everyone else needs you to be. It's the journey from living unconsciously driven by wounds and fears and other people's expectations to living consciously, making choices from your authentic self. Real love, the kind that actually nourishes instead of depletes, can only exist between two people who are on this journey. Two people who are learning to be whole within themselves. Not two wounded children clinging to each other calling it love. Everything in our culture tells us that love is about fusion, about completing each other, about sacrifice and compromise and making it work no matter what. But that's not love. That's two shadows trying to heal each other, and it never works. One person always ends up carrying more, usually you. When you create distance after doing your shadow work, after healing your people-pleasing patterns, after learning to honor yourself, you're not being selfish. You're offering him something profound. You're offering him a chance to meet you as an equal, not as his emotional savior, not as the woman who fixes what's broken in him, but as a whole person choosing to connect with another whole person. And yes, some men will fail this test. They'll walk away, or they'll get worse, or they'll try to make you feel guilty for changing. And that's not failure on your part. That's information. That's his shadow revealing that it cannot heal in proximity to you, that the only version of you he can love is the version that abandons herself. The question isn't whether you can love him enough to fix him. The question is whether he can do his own work to become someone capable of meeting you. Let's talk about what conscious distance actually looks like, because there's a difference between creating space for healing and using distance as a weapon. Toxic distance is about punishment. It's the silent treatment designed to make someone suffer. It's disappearing to prove a point. It's withholding affection to force someone to chase you. Conscious distance is completely different. It's about creating space, so both people can feel, can choose, can remember who they are outside of the relationship dynamics. It's not about controlling his behavior. It's about honoring yourself. Here's how you know the difference. Ask yourself, am I creating this space to harm or to heal? Am I trying to control his response, or am I clarifying my own needs? Conscious distance comes from fullness, from loving yourself enough to require respect. Toxic distance comes from emptiness, from wanting to hurt someone so they know how you feel. Before you create distance, you need to do your own shadow work. Get out your journal and write this down. What am I afraid will happen if I step back? Where did I learn that my worth equals my availability? What part of me believes that if I'm not constantly giving, I'll be abandoned? These aren't easy questions. They'll take you back to your childhood, to the patterns you learned from watching your parents, from being the good girl who kept everyone happy, from becoming the person who earned love through service. Here's another question to explore. When did I first learn that my feelings were too much? Maybe you cried as a child and were told to stop being so sensitive. Maybe you expressed anger and were shamed for being difficult. Maybe you showed excitement and were told to calm down. Those moments taught you that parts of yourself were unacceptable, so you learned to hide them, to manage other people's comfort instead of honoring your own truth. That pattern is still running. Even now, even after all your healing work, there's probably a part of you that's afraid your boundaries make you unlovable. That's the shadow you need to see before you can create conscious distance. Until you face your own shadow, your distance will be reactive instead of conscious. It'll come from a wound instead of from wisdom. And he'll feel that difference even if he can't name it. Once you've done that work, practice setting boundaries without explanation. Say things like, I need some time to myself this week. No justification, no apology, no lengthy explanation about why you need space or what you're feeling. Then watch what happens. Does he respect it? Does he ask questions from genuine curiosity? Does he rage and make you responsible for his discomfort? Each reaction is giving you data. Healthy people respect boundaries. Wounded people experience them as abandonment. Pay attention to shadow projections. He might say things like, "You've changed, you're cold. You're not the person I fell in love with." What he's really saying is, you're no longer playing the role my shadow needs, and I'm uncomfortable. Your response internally should be simple. His discomfort is not my responsibility to fix. My wholeness is not negotiable. Give this time. Real transformation takes weeks, sometimes months, not days. Watch for signs of genuine growth. Is he doing his own work? Is he reading books, going to therapy, reflecting on his patterns? Or is he just waiting for you to come back so things can return to how they were? If he can only love the version of you that abandons yourself, that's not love. That's his shadow seeking its complement. That's two wounds trying to complete each other, and you deserve more than that. Let me give you some real scenarios. If he responds by love-bombing you, flooding you with gifts and intensity and promises, that's shadow panic. He's trying to recapture what he had without facing why he lost it. Your response should be, I appreciate this, but I need to see sustained change over time, not intensity. The love-bombing phase can be seductive. It feels like finally he sees your worth. Finally, he's showing up. But watch carefully. Is he showing up for you, or is he showing up to ease his own anxiety? Is he asking what you actually need, or is he performing what he thinks will win you back? Real change is quiet and consistent. It doesn't announce itself with grand gestures. It shows up in small daily choices over weeks and months. If he plays the victim, If he says things like, "You're hurting me, you don't care. I've been so good to you," that's guilt manipulation. That's someone who can't sit with his own feelings, so he's trying to make you responsible for them. Hold your boundary with compassion, but don't budge. If he disappears completely, if he punishes you with silence, let him go. That's an avoidant response, someone who cannot handle discomfort. Chasing him will only confirm his shadow's belief that he's too much or not enough. But if he says something like, "This is hard for me, but I want to understand what I'm missing. Can we talk about this?" That's shadow recognition. That's someone willing to sit in discomfort and learn. That's the only response worth your continued energy. You are no longer the empath who drains herself to fill others. You are no longer the healer who makes herself small so others can feel big. You are no longer the woman who believes her worth is determined by who stays or who goes. The shift in your energy is profound. Before, your internal voice was saying, "Please see me, please choose me, please let me be enough." Now, it says something completely different. "I see myself. I choose myself. You're welcome to join me here in consciousness, in wholeness, in freedom. But I won't beg you to meet me." What this looks like in your daily life is simple, but revolutionary. You text when you're genuinely inspired, not from anxiety about whether you're being attentive enough. You share your feelings when you're moved to, not from obligation. You love openly and honestly, but you don't plead for reciprocation. You're fully present when you choose to be, but that presence never comes at the cost of yourself. I want to be honest with you about something. Some of you will lose relationships through this process. You'll set boundaries, and people will leave. You'll stop playing the caretaker role, and suddenly you'll be called selfish. You'll choose yourself, and someone you love won't be able to meet you there. And it will hurt. It will hurt because you did love them, even if they couldn't love the real you back. But here's the reframe that changes everything. What you're losing isn't the real relationship. You're losing the false one, the one that was built on your self-abandonment, the one that required you to stay small so someone else could feel big. The one where you were performing a role instead of being yourself. What you're losing was already hollow. You just couldn't see it yet because you were so busy trying to fill that hollowness with more of yourself. Every person who cannot love the whole you is making room for someone who can. Every boundary that ends a relationship is actually clarifying what real love looks like. Every person who walks away because you stopped abandoning yourself is showing you that they were never there for you. They were there for what you could do for them. And here's what's beautiful about that clarity, even though it hurts. You're no longer wasting years on relationships that require you to betray yourself. You're no longer investing in people who can only love a diminished version of you. The pain of loss now saves you from years of slow erosion later. That's not cruelty. That's mercy. This journey of becoming conscious, of integrating your shadow, of learning to love yourself enough to require reciprocity. This doesn't end. There will always be new layers to heal, new patterns to recognize, new levels of consciousness to reach. That's not discouraging. That's the truth of being human. But you can start small. This week, just notice one pattern where you abandon yourself for proximity. Maybe it's how quickly you text back, even when you're busy. Maybe it's how you say yes when you mean no. Maybe it's how you perform happiness to make someone else comfortable. Just notice. No judgment. No forcing yourself to change immediately. Because awareness is always the first transformation. You can't change what you can't see. This work ripples far beyond romantic relationships. This is about becoming a woman who designs her entire life from consciousness. Your work, your friendships, your creativity, your purpose. This is about shifting from asking, "How do I be loved?" to asking, "How do I love myself so fully that only real love can enter?" When you start living from this place, something shifts in every area of your life. You stop accepting jobs that drain you just because you're good at managing other people's chaos. You stop maintaining friendships where you're always the listener, the supporter, the one who shows up but no one shows up for you. You stop shrinking yourself in rooms where your voice makes others uncomfortable. You stop apologizing for taking up space. This isn't about becoming hard or closed. It's about becoming clear. Clear about what you will and won't accept. Clear about what real reciprocity looks like. Clear about the difference between connection and codependence. You're not broken for wanting love. You're not wrong for having been wounded. You're not too much for needing respect. You're simply waking up. And that waking up, that choice to stop living from your wounds and start living from your wisdom, that's the most important work you'll ever do. Share in the comments one way you've noticed yourself abandoning your boundaries for closeness. Let's build a community of women who are choosing themselves. And if you want to continue this journey, subscribe. We're just getting started on reclaiming your wholeness. Remember, this emotional distance doesn't drive him crazy because you're withholding love. It drives him crazy because it finally asks him to show up. And whether he can or can't, whether he chooses growth or runs away, that's the answer you've been seeking all along. The distance revealed the truth. Now you get to choose what to do with it.